The quantum disruption alarms shattered the sterile silence of Observation Station Omega 9, a massive spherical structure suspended in the void between star systems. Holographic displays erupted with violent crimson mornings, casting an apocalyptic glow across the faces of stunned alien technicians. Zarak, the station's chief monitoring officer, felt her four hearts simultaneously compress with terror. Her crystalline exoskeleton flickered with bioluminescent panic as she processed the impossible data streaming across her neural interfaces. The subspace barrier, a technological marvel considered absolutely impenetrable, had just been violated in a way that defied every known law of quantum mechanics. "Impossible," she whispered, her translator implant converting the words into 17 different linguistic patterns simultaneously. The massive holographic display showed a vessel materializing from what could only be described as a quantum fold, a theoretical method of transportation that existed only in the most speculative scientific papers. Its hull seemed to shimmer between states of existence, materials phasing in and out of observable reality. Where most spacecraft presented clean, geometric designs, this vessel looked like a living nightmare of engineering. Organic yet precisely mechanical, fluid yet razor-sharp. Backup systems triggered across the entire observation network. Trillion credit sensor arrays swiveled, focusing every possible scanning method on the anomalous vessel. Spectral analysis, quantum resonance mapping, dimensional harmonics, nothing provided a complete picture. It was as if the ship existed in multiple realities simultaneously. Station technicians from 17 different species worked frantically, their specialized appendages dancing across holographic control interfaces. Communication protocols were initiated, emergency channels flooded with urgent transmissions. But the vessel remained silent, save for a single cryptic broadcast that repeated every 73 seconds. USDFIANC, Sector Assessment Protocol, INIT. No identifying transponder codes, no diplomatic credentials. Just that single, matter-of-fact statement that sent ripples of dread through the galactic community. Historical archives began to activate. Buried databases that hadn't been accessed in generations started compiling information. Humans, a species most believed had been effectively neutralized centuries ago during the Great Purge. A civilization that had been deemed too volatile, too unpredictable to be allowed continued existence in the greater galactic community. Apparently, someone hadn't finished the job. The station's quantum AI began generating probability scenarios. Each simulation ended the same way: total systemic uncertainty. The arrival of this vessel represented a variable that no existing model could accurately predict. Deep within the station's secure communication hub, encrypted channels began lighting up. The Galactic Concordance Council would need to be informed immediately. Political leaders across multiple star systems would be awakened from stasis chambers, emergency protocols activated. Something fundamental was about to change. Zarak's communication implant suddenly crackled with an incoming priority transmission. The encryption was unlike anything in current use, a hybrid quantum biological code that seemed to phase between encryption states faster than any known decryption algorithm could track. When the message resolved, it was maddeningly simple. Diplomatic Q1 Ion int. Prepare Recipitation protocols. The U.S. Defiance continued to hover, a silent predator at the edge of known space. Its very existence was a statement, a challenge, and a promise all simultaneously. Whatever was coming, the galaxy was woefully unprepared. Station security protocols activated automatically. Defensive systems charged, though everyone knew they would be monumentally insufficient against a vessel that could breach a subspace barrier considered unbreakable. In that moment, the first true representatives of humanity in over 2 centuries announced their return. Not with a whimper, but with a quantum-powered roar that would reshape everything. The universe held its collective breath. Captain Alina Rodriguez stood motionless on the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, her presence more machine than human. The biosynthetic arm grafted to her right side pulsed with a soft blue light, neural interfaces dancing across its surface like living circuitry. Each movement was calculated, precise, a testament to survival and human adaptation. Her eyes, augmented with quantum-adaptive retinal implants, processed information at speeds that would obliterate most biological computation systems. Scars traced intricate patterns across her exposed skin, each a memory of the Proxima conflict, each telling a story of humanity's most brutal moment of survival. "Status report," she commanded, her voice a low, controlled frequency that seemed to resonate with the ship itself. The ship's quantum AI, an entity so advanced it bordered on sentience, responded immediately. Holographic displays erupted around her, showing multiple dimensional perspectives of their current position. Threat assessments, diplomatic protocols, resource allocations, all processed and presented in milliseconds. "Sector penetration complete," the AI reported. "Galactic concordance monitoring stations have detected our arrival. Probability of full-scale defensive response, 87.3% within the next 12 standard time units." Rodriguez allowed herself the briefest hint of a smile. 12 time units. 12 opportunities to reshape the narrative that had been written about humanity centuries ago. Her mind drifted momentarily to the history that brought her here. The Great Purge had been more than just a military conflict. It was a calculated attempt to exterminate human potential. Entire colonies burned. Billions of lives erased. The alien collective had believed they had broken humanity's spirit. They were wrong. The biosynthetic arm began running diagnostic sequences, its internal systems communicating with the ship's quantum network. Each movement was a ballet of technological precision, a living testament to human innovation, born from the most extreme circumstances of survival. "Prepare initial communication packet," Rodriguez ordered. "Multilingual quantum encryption protocol. Ensure maximum penetration across all known communication bands." The ship hummed in response. It was more than a vessel. It was a statement. A living weapon of diplomacy and potential destruction, crafted from the very pain of humanity's near extinction. Memories flickered across her augmented vision. Training grounds on the reconstructed Mars colonies. The brutal survival schools that transformed human refugees into the most adaptable species in known space. Tactical academies where defeat was never an option, where every lesson was written in the blood of past failures. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Marcus Chen, approached. Himself a product of genetic optimization programs designed to create the perfect human adaptability matrix, he carried the weight of generations of strategic thinking. "Captain," he reported, "initial scans confirm our infiltration was undetected by conventional monitoring systems. The quantum fold entry method appears to have been completely successful." Rodriguez nodded. Their mission was about more than military might. It was about rewriting a galactic narrative that had condemned humanity to obscurity. Every system they passed through, every sector they entered, was a declaration. Humanity was back, and this time they were prepared. The U.S. Defiance continued its silent approach, a quantum ghost carrying the hopes and survival instincts of an entire species. Waiting, watching, preparing to show the galaxy exactly what humanity had become during its long, painful isolation. The holographic data burst erupted without warning, filling the U.S. Defiance's primary briefing chamber with a three-dimensional nightmare of human history. Spectral images of burning colonies, shattered space stations, and the systematic destruction of human civilization flickered with brutal clarity. Lieutenant Marcus Chen watched Captain Rodriguez's expression, unchanging, a perfect mask of controlled rage. The historical reconstruction was more than just a record. It was an indictment, a comprehensive account of humanity's near extinction at the hands of the Galactic Collective. The first wave had come without warning. Massive biomechanical warships descending upon Earth's outer colonies like a plague of metallic locusts. Entire planetary populations were reduced to ash and statistical footnotes. The collective's justification was chillingly bureaucratic. Humans were deemed a developmental threat, a species with potential too dangerous to be allowed continued existence. Archival footage showed massive orbital bombardments. Cities vaporized in milliseconds. Entire continents transformed into radioactive glass. But within that destruction, something unexpected emerged. Not defeat, not submission. Adaptation. The surviving human populations did not break. They transformed. Underground research facilities, hidden in the most inhospitable regions of human-controlled space, began working on technologies that would redefine the very concept of survival. Genetic optimization programs, quantum computing breakthroughs, adaptive biological technologies that could turn human bodies into living weapons. The Proxima conflict, the holographic narrator intoned, marked the moment humanity ceased to be a species and became a solution. Rodriguez's augmented eye flickered, processing terabytes of data per second. She had been a child during the final stages of the collective's extermination attempt. Her parents, both quantum physicists, had been instrumental in developing the technologies that would eventually save their species. The data reconstruction showed how humans were pushed to the absolute brink of extinction. 93% of the human population eliminated in less than a decade. Entire genetic lines erased. Colonies burned. Communication networks destroyed. But the remaining 7% did not merely survive. They evolved. Mars became more than a colony. It transformed into humanity's forge, a planet-wide research and development complex dedicated to one singular purpose, ensuring that what happened would never happen again. Genetic optimization became standard, not for aesthetic purposes, but for pure survival. Human DNA was rewritten, optimized, pushed beyond previous biological limitations. Neural interfaces that could connect directly with advanced computing systems. Biological augmentations that could survive in environments previously considered impossible. The quantum computing breakthroughs were particularly revolutionary. Humans developed computational matrices that could predict and counteract threat scenarios faster than any known alien technology. Strategic modeling that could simulate millions of potential conflict resolutions in nanoseconds. "We were never defeated," Rodriguez whispered, her voice barely audible. "We were preparing." The final segment of the historical reconstruction was most chilling. It showed the moment humans realized they could do more than just survive. They could transform the very paradigms of galactic conflict and diplomacy. Genetic memory became a weapon. Adaptive technologies became a shield. Every brutal lesson of near extinction was transformed into a strategic advantage. Lieutenant Chen understood the message implicit in this historical review. This wasn't just a record of past suffering. It was a warning, a declaration. Humanity had not just survived the collective's attempt at extinction. They had used it as a crucible to become something entirely new. The U.S. Defiance continued its silent approach through the sector, carrying with it the accumulated trauma and triumph of an entire species, a living testament to the fact that true power isn't about overwhelming force, but about the ability to adapt, to learn, and to transform in the face of absolute destruction. Humanity was back, and they were nothing like anyone remembered. The Zorn Collective's interceptor fleet materialized with the usual arrogance of a species that had never known true defeat. 17 biomechanical warships, each the size of a small moon, their hulls pulsing with adaptive regenerative technologies that had crushed 1,000 civilizations. Captain Elena Rodriguez didn't even blink. "Quantum Cascade Weapon," she commanded, her voice a razor-edged whisper that seemed to resonate through the U.S. Defiance's quantum communication matrix. The ship responded instantaneously. No missiles, no traditional weapon signatures, just a pure quantum disruption that propagated faster than light, faster than thought, faster than the very concept of molecular cohesion. The Zorn fleet began to unravel. It wasn't destruction in any traditional sense. The molecular bonds that held their ships together simply ceased to exist. Hulls phased out of reality, becoming less than dust, less than memory. Crews experienced a millisecond of absolute comprehension, a perfect understanding of their own irrelevance, before being transformed into pure quantum potential. 17 massive warships, erased in less time than it takes a human heart to beat. Lieutenant Marcus Chen's quantum display showed the engagement with clinical precision. No weapon signatures, no energy emissions, just complete systemic deletion. Threat neutralized, the ship's AI reported, its tone devoid of any emotional context. Pure information, pure efficiency. Rodriguez's augmented eye tracked the dispersing quantum field. Each molecule, each atomic structure, carefully managed to prevent any potential environmental contamination. Even in total warfare, human technology maintained a level of precision that bordered on the theological. The communication channels erupted. Panic, disbelief, pure, unadulterated terror. The Zorn Collective's Central Command received the first transmission. Not a declaration of war, not a threat, just a simple message. Diplomatic Engagement Protocol LINITAED. Tactical analysis would later show that the U.S. Defiance had not just destroyed a military fleet. It had made a statement, a declaration that humanity's capabilities far exceeded anything the galactic powers could comprehend. No traditional weapons had been used. No conventional energy signatures detected. Just pure quantum manipulation that demonstrated a level of technological mastery that made previous galactic conflicts look like children's playground arguments. The sector went silent. The U.S. Defiance continued its approach, a quantum ghost carrying the accumulated technological might of a species that had been underestimated for far too long. Humanity had arrived, and they were nothing like anyone remembered. Information became the ultimate weapon. Captain Rodriguez initiated the comprehensive data burst with surgical precision. Encrypted quantum packets penetrated every secure communication channel in the sector, bypassing firewalls that had been considered unbreakable for centuries. The first wave of data was a systematic deconstruction of galactic power structures, trade route manipulations, economic warfare conducted through subtle algorithmic interventions, entire species kept in perpetual economic slavery through complex financial mechanisms that few could comprehend. The U.S. Defiance transformed from a military vessel into something far more dangerous, a living information weapon. Diplomatic encryption protocols meant nothing. The quantum adaptive communication systems developed in the hidden research facilities of reconstructed Mars rendered traditional security measures obsolete. Each data packet was a precision-guided missile of pure information, adapting its transmission method faster than any existing counter-protocol could track. Lieutenant Chen watched the systematic dismantling of galactic political structures with professional detachment. Years of training in quantum information warfare had prepared him for this moment. What was unfolding was more than a military operation. It was a complete systemic reset. Hidden communication networks began to collapse. Backroom deals that had sustained multi-species political structures for centuries suddenly became public knowledge. Corruption that had been carefully maintained for generations was exposed in milliseconds. The Kepler Alliance's most secure diplomatic channels went first. Then the Zorn Collective's classified communication networks. Each system fell not to brute force, but to an almost surgical information intervention. Total network penetration in 3, 2, 1. The ship's AI reported. Rodriguez's augmented eye tracked the cascading information collapse. Each revealed secret was a surgical strike against the existing galactic power structure. Not random chaos, but a carefully orchestrated dismantling of systems built on manipulation and hidden conflict. The message was clear. Humanity had not just survived. They had been watching, learning, preparing. Diplomatic communication channels across multiple star systems began receiving comprehensive data packages. Not just raw information, but fully contextualized analyses that exposed the intricate web of manipulation that had sustained galactic political structures for centuries. Trade route manipulations became visible. Economic warfare mechanisms were laid bare. The complex systems of control that had kept multiple species in perpetual economic subjugation were systematically exposed. No military force had been used. No traditional weapons deployed. Just pure, precise information warfare that demonstrated a level of strategic thinking that made previous galactic conflicts look like primitive territorial disputes. The U.S. Defiance continued its approach, a quantum ghost carrying the accumulated knowledge of a species that had been forced to become the most adaptive intelligence in the known universe. Humanity had arrived, and they were ready to rewrite the rules. The U.S. Defiance was more than a warship. It was a living testament to human technological evolution. Its adaptive hull could reconfigure molecular structures in real time, a technology so advanced it bordered on the miraculous. Quantum entanglement communication systems created communication networks that could penetrate any known defensive barrier. The ship's AI processed diplomatic and tactical scenarios faster than entire alien bureaucracies could comprehend a single strategic option. When the Kepler Alliance attempted to jam its communications, the Defiance didn't just counter the attack, it transformed the entire communication spectrum. Quantum computing matrices developed in the hidden research facilities of reconstructed Mars had long since moved beyond traditional computational paradigms. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was a fundamental reimagining of what technology could be. Lieutenant Chen initiated the ship's adaptive response protocol. Holographic interfaces erupted around Captain Rodriguez, each display showing multiple dimensional perspectives of potential scenario developments. Millions of potential outcomes calculated and discarded in microseconds. The ship's defensive systems were a living organism, not just reactive, but predictive. Each potential threat was analyzed, categorized, and neutralized before it could even fully form. Incoming communication jamming signals were not just blocked. They were analyzed, understood, and then used as additional data points to further refine the ship's adaptive communication matrix. Computational singularity achieved, the ship's AI reported. The tone was devoid of emotion, pure information delivery. Rodriguez watched as the ship's systems began to demonstrate capabilities that defied conventional understanding. Adaptive algorithms that could predict and counter threat scenarios in nanoseconds. Communication protocols that could penetrate any known defensive barrier. The technological demonstration was deliberate. A statement. Humanity was no longer a species to be controlled or managed. They had become something else entirely. Sensor arrays that could track quantum-level interactions. Communication systems that could penetrate dimensional barriers. Adaptive hull technologies that could reconfigure at the molecular level faster than most species could comprehend a single strategic option. The Defiance wasn't just a ship. It was a mobile research station, a diplomatic platform, a living weapon of pure potential. Each system was a direct result of humanity's brutal history. The near extinction had not broken them. It had transformed them. Every painful lesson of survival had been converted into a technological advantage. Genetic optimization programs that had begun as desperate attempts to ensure human survival had produced something unprecedented. Humans who could interface directly with quantum computing systems. Biological augmentations that blurred the line between organic and technological intelligence. The ship's communication systems began broadcasting on multiple frequency bands. Not just traditional communication protocols, but quantum adaptive information matrices that could simultaneously exist in multiple communication states. Lieutenant Chen understood the deeper message. This wasn't just a technological demonstration. It was a declaration of humanity's fundamental transformation. They were no longer a species that could be controlled. They had become a solution, a living, adaptive intelligence that could reshape the varied fundamental understanding of technological potential. The U.S. Defiance continued its approach, a quantum ghost carrying the accumulated technological might of a species that had transformed pain into pure adaptive potential. Humanity had arrived, and they were nothing like anyone remembered. The combined alien powers made their final desperate attempt to neutralize the U.S. Defiance. 37 star systems committed their most advanced defensive technologies. Quantum disruptors developed over millennia of technological evolution. Dimensional warfare technologies that could theoretically unravel molecular structures. Adaptive communication jamming systems that had rendered entire civilizations silent. Captain Rodriguez didn't even adjust her posture. "Contingency Protocol Omega," she whispered. The quantum-linked observation posts hidden throughout the sector came online simultaneously. Each was a technological marvel that could destabilize entire star systems with a quantum pulse, not through traditional destructive means, but through pure information manipulation that could fundamentally alter the quantum state of entire regions of space. It wasn't a threat. It was a demonstration. Lieutenant Chen tracked the cascading systems with clinical precision. The alien defensive fleet began to experience total systemic failure, not through weapon fire, not through energy emissions, but through a complete deconstruction of their technological infrastructure. Quantum communication networks collapsed. Defensive systems turned inward. Each technological system became a potential vector of total systemic destruction. The hidden observation posts were more than weapons. They were a comprehensive information network that could simultaneously track, analyze, and potentially neutralize any technological threat. Developed in the hidden research facilities of reconstructed Mars, they represented the accumulated survival instincts of a species that had been pushed to the absolute brink of extinction. Entire defensive fleets began to disassemble themselves, not through external force, but through their own internal systems being systematically rewritten by quantum information matrices that could penetrate any known defensive barrier. The message was clear. Humanity could neutralize entire technological civilizations without firing a single traditional weapon. Rodriguez's augmented eye tracked the systematic deconstruction with zero emotional engagement. Each system failure was a data point. Each technological collapse was a strategic outcome. The alien powers had believed they could control humanity by eliminating their technological infrastructure. They had failed to understand the fundamental truth. Survival itself had become humanity's most advanced technology. Genetic optimization programs, quantum computing developments, adaptive communication systems. Each technological breakthrough was a direct result of humanity's brutal history of near extinction. The observation posts continued their silent intervention, not destruction. Transformation. Defensive systems became communication networks. Weapon platforms transformed into diplomatic interfaces. Each technological system was systematically repurposed, showing a level of adaptive thinking that made previous galactic conflicts look like primitive territorial disputes. Lieutenant Chen understood the deeper strategy. This wasn't just a military demonstration. It was a comprehensive restructuring of what technological potential could mean. The U.S. Defiance continued its approach, carrying with it the accumulated technological and strategic might of a species that had transformed pain into pure adaptive potential. Humanity had arrived, and they were rewriting the fundamental rules of galactic existence. The breaking point had been reached, and humanity was just getting started. The U.S. Defiance became the catalyst for a complete restructuring of galactic governance. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood before the hastily assembled Galactic Concordance Council, her presence alone a statement of unprecedented power. The holographic chamber fell silent as she began to outline a comprehensive plan that would fundamentally reshape existing power structures. Oppressed species were given voice. Trade routes were democratized. The centuries-old systems of control and manipulation were systematically dismantled with surgical precision. What had begun as a potential military intervention transformed into the most comprehensive diplomatic reset in galactic history. The negotiation protocols were unlike anything the Council had ever witnessed. Each proposal came with comprehensive data packages that exposed the underlying economic and political manipulations driving centuries of conflict. Quantum adaptive communication systems ensured that every statement, every negotiation point was simultaneously translated, verified, and contextualized across multiple species communication matrices. Lieutenant Marcus Chen managed the complex web of diplomatic interventions. Genetic optimization and neural interfaces allowed him to process diplomatic scenarios at speeds that made traditional negotiation look like primitive communication. The fundamental message was clear. Humanity was not seeking conquest. They were introducing a new paradigm of galactic cooperation. Territorial disputes that had lasted centuries were resolved in hours. Economic systems that had kept entire species in perpetual economic slavery were systematically dismantled. The hidden communication networks that had sustained corrupt power structures were exposed and transformed. Each alien representative watched in a mixture of terror and reluctant admiration. The humans were not conquering through traditional means. They were solving problems that had been considered impossible for millennia. The U.S. Defiance became more than a vessel. It became a mobile diplomatic platform, a research station, a communication hub that could simultaneously exist in multiple diplomatic and technological states. Genetic optimization programs that had begun as desperate attempts to ensure human survival now provided unprecedented problem-solving capabilities. Humans could interface directly with complex systems, understand multidimensional challenges, and develop solutions that transcended traditional species-based limitations. Rodriguez's final presentation to the Council was a comprehensive restructuring plan, not a demand, not a threat, but a meticulously developed framework for a new type of galactic cooperation. Trade routes were redesigned to benefit developing species. Communication networks were made universally accessible. The hidden manipulation systems that had sustained galactic power structures were systematically exposed and neutralized. The Zorn Collective and Kepler Alliance were forced to acknowledge humanity's unique capabilities, not through military might, but through a demonstration of problem-solving potential that rendered traditional power structures obsolete. As the U.S. Defiance prepared to depart the sector, it left behind more than a peace agreement. It left a fundamental reimagining of what galactic cooperation could mean. The final transmission from Captain Rodriguez was both a promise and a warning. Humanity is back, and we're here to solve problems. The universe watched. The universe listened. The universe understood that everything had changed. Humanity had arrived, and they were nothing like anyone remembered.